Take, for example, today's headlines without deadlines. The Minister of Natural Resources made a grand announcement of a deal with Germany. And where have we heard that before? I have here the last time the Liberals announced a deal with Germany. The joint declaration of intent between the Government of Canada and the Government of the Federal Republic of Germany on establishing a Canada-Germany hydrogen alliance. In this agreement, to which you all gave copious amounts of coverage, uncritical coverage, they promised that they would be delivering boatloads of hydrogen to Germany by 2025. Well, here we are halfway through 2026, and how many boatloads of hydrogen have been delivered to Germany? Zero, not a tablespoon. In fact, there's not even a shovel in the ground for a future hydrogen terminal that could ever manufacture or ship the stuff. And now they're getting another round of uncritical media coverage for yet another fake agreement that will ultimately result in nothing. But before I comment on that, let me just say Conservatives are announcing today a new private members bill that will require mandatory Geography 101 for the Minister of Natural Resources. Because today he was asked an inconvenient question: how are you actually going to get natural gas from British Columbia to the North Sea? And his answer was that there's going to be a ship that's going to go all the way down to the Panama Canal, along the side of the United States, and then through the Caribbean islands all the way back north to Germany. But most ships, he says, will be too big for that. So they'll have to go all the way down around the southern tip of Latin America and then all the way back. But even more than that, he's going to have ships that are going to go across the Pacific, around Asia, around Africa, and then all the way back to the northernmost part of Europe, where they will deliver the gas, when we could have simply delivered the gas from eastern Canada, where there were 3 terminals that the Liberals have killed. One in Newfoundland. We have our members from Newfoundland here. Jonathan. Jonathan's here. His constituents could have been working on the LNG Newfoundland and Labrador project, which would have pumped gas from the Jeanne d'Arc oil field to a liquefaction ship on the shore off to Germany. Liberals killed it. Then there was the reversal of the Repsol terminal, which was going to take an existing import terminal, turn it into an export terminal, send it off to Europe in St. John. We have our member from St. John here, whose constituents lost out off that opportunity when the Liberals killed that. And then the third, Saguenay, the LNG Quebec project, which would have liquefied Canadian gas on the St. Lawrence, sent it off to Europe. Liberals killed all 3 of these projects, which, by the way, would have delivered gas in half the time it takes to get from the U.S. Gulf Coast, and instead those projects are now dead. And the Liberals expect us to believe that someday, over the rainbow, they're going to send ships through 4 continents all the way around the world to do what we could have done in a quarter of the time if they had not stood in the way. It is more headlines without deadlines, announcements without actions, illusions without reality. When is the media coverage actually going to scrutinize the results of these endless announcements and look at what they actually deliver? We as Conservatives want to repeal all the anti-energy laws, provide pre-permitting for LNG liquefaction plants and the pipelines to supply them so that they can get approved within 6 months, get rid of the industrial carbon tax, and that we can get these projects done. I would add, by the way, you actually don't need to sign new agreements because the rest of the world is already begging for our energy. It doesn't take a master negotiator to convince a man in the desert to take a glass of water, right? It takes the ability to deliver the glass of water. And right now, it's not that the Europeans or the Asians are keeping our energy out, it's that our Liberal government is keeping the energy in.